Okay, so a lot of people will have checked the official Formula One channel on YouTube, and it is now full of downvotes and people complaining about the FIA being too heavy-handed, and everything and anything other than slot car racing. You have to have penalties, and it's a race, is it not? Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that right now because I already have, and I've already been on forums, and it's just ridiculous. And at least I can see there are people like me who were big fans of F1 who are now feeling like really sort of disillusioned and fed up with what it's become. So let me just I just had an idea. um, I mean, it's a bit out there, but I'll just put down the basic premise. So, F1 is broken. It's dead. It's dead. Gone. It's rubbish. Not what it used to be. Right? Here's my plan for a better version of F1. Drivers, teams, and so on who preferred the old days get together, start their own federation, and go and set up their own series. Now, there's a lot of different angles you could come at this, but let's just go with the one that came to me first. They will call it something like Classic F1 or Old School F1, and basically the cars will be old F1 cars. We're talking between 90s and 2000s, sort of. I wouldn't go any more than that because we're talking cars that had that classic F1 noise, and the engines kind of just went downhill from about 2008 onwards to what we've got now, which is like the Henry Hoover engines. So yeah, I would say have maybe eras. You could have like a 90s era. You could even interchange, so they're not always in the same car. You could have 1 week where it's early 90s F1, next week it's 95 to 2000, and drivers could choose different vehicles. They have to pick 6 different vehicles at the start of the season, and they pick them out of old F1 chassis. There's plenty of them around. If you know where to look, they're expensive, but they're nothing like as expensive as building an extra car, which is why this idea is even more feasible, because if financially they could probably do it. It wouldn't be too hard. We're talking people who are very rich in the drivers and personnel. Anyway, so they already do stuff like this, like Classic F1, where it's usually club racers and they have their own cars. As I said, they've bought Classic F1 cars, and obviously it's not very high profile. No one's really going to watch it. It's more just for the drivers' enjoyment. But here's the thing: it is potential for a very good sport there if you can come at it with your own rules and your own regulations, where things like track limits, slight collisions, even stuff where someone's being aggressive. I honestly think that if you've got like one guy with a white hat and one guy with a black hat, it's good to see them spar, and the good guy to come out on top, because the kind of drivers that would push you off or try dirty things, it's not always going to work. It can easily backfire. So this is an essential part of this series that I've dreamt up, is that you don't have any of this crap. You have the rules as they were in 1990, and I'm talking everything. None of these track limits, none of these penalties for breathing on another car. No, you have straightforward 1990s rules. End of story. Yep. And we don't have some tosser being a steward. The steward watches out, and by that I mean by 1990 standards. I have to reiterate, because if this happened and the tossers got back in, this is the problem. The FIA is just a political run organisation, and there's probably a lot of decent guys within there that didn't want this to happen, but there really isn't much you can do when there's hidden hands above who are forcing you in this direction. Now, the feasibility of this is very possible. You have to run cars from a certain era. As I said, you could just have the whole season like that, or the driver could pick 2 to sort of 6 different cars they would use. So, or there'd be like a weekend at Imola with late 80s, and then next week it's Hockenheim with mid 90s, right? And the driver and teams, and they alternate and try and make it fair. Don't have someone that has to have like a Pacific every week, or an Andrea Moda, Coloni. They were the terrible teams in F1. Yeah, anyway, so the driver picks these, but it's done on like a points basis, like fantasy football. So they all get, say they have to pick cars from 6 different eras, they all get a fair crack of the whip, right? So someone gets first choice in one area and other, and so on. I'm not going to go into detail. You could work it out so that drivers kind of have the same chance to pick what they want when they want. This also would eliminate performance advantage, which is always something that's been a slight issue in F1. Senna and Prost and so on, they probably would have won a lot of races with or without the top. If you're talking, if everyone had the car they had, I think they'd probably win. They'd probably still be right up there. Senna in particular, because I know that he actually, he won a race in a Toleman, which was, obviously had a lot of natural talent. Same goes for the likes of Schumacher, Hamilton, and Button, and Vettel and Rosberg. All these guys, they're all naturally talented, but there are a lot of drivers down the field that could probably beat them on their day. So this would be another thing. You'd have kind of more equality bit among the teams, and the cars. And then you would just need a TV deal. Well, you can go via YouTube. You don't have to go via all the TV companies who want this, that, and the other. Just go via YouTube and put sponsorship in at the start of all the videos. Have run YouTube ads, and we'll make classic era F1 cars into a modern alternative. And if it starts out with most people not really paying too much attention to it, that's probably a good thing, because at least in the early years you're trying to get it off the ground. That would be beneficial. So yeah, that's just my idea. Obviously this would be amazing. Imagine watching cars like like a 93 Lotus versus 93 Williams with current day drivers. As I said, if this did happen, it would be a more low-key thing. You probably wouldn't be able to get top drivers to it straight away, and so on. And of course, the establishment would probably look at it and try to interfere. This is a key point. If the establishment that are fucking up all forms of racing at the moment with these silly rules about penalty, right? If they go in and get their teeth into this, it'd be a waste of time. They will screw it up. We don't want any halos, no vacuum engines. We want wheel-to-wheel racing. If someone collides during wheel-to-wheel racing, they are not sanctioned, because it's racing. It's not scale electric. If all that can be pulled off, then there's your alternative, in my view. Anyway, cheers guys, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.